Now, today, we are viewing the sensitive story of a witch who wants to use a piece of Stonehenge to kill people and children, turn children into monsters, and a doctor with the fabulous mustache who wants to stop his glorious plans. All set to music by John Carpenter and a Silver Shamrock theme that will stay in your head until next Halloween. That's right, it's Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Now, this movie, when I was younger, probably like 10 years ago, maybe 15, was still known as the worst Halloween movie ever made. It was never shown on TV, and it was known as the worst Halloween movie ever made because it didn't have Michael Myers in it. It had nothing to do with the rest of the Halloween franchise, and it was never shown on TV. So I never seen it until like 2 years ago when it started getting some love again. And people were like, this is not the worst Halloween movie ever made. This is actually one of the better Halloween movies. And I watched it, I'm like, hey, I really like this movie. It's a really good movie, though it has nothing to do with the rest of the Halloween franchise. And the reason for that is John Carpenter wanted to make the Halloween franchise an anthology franchise where each film took place in its own world and had a different story. And so he made Halloween 3. So he had someone write up a story for Halloween 3, and he did music, and they wrote and directed it, and it was a different story. But then Halloween 3 bombed, and his producer partner bought the rights, and they brought Michael Myers back. But everybody knows that story, so I don't know why I just told it to you again. So we're getting into the film. We start with an old man running from a car, or he's racing a car. I'm not sure which one. And he goes to hide in a junkyard. Well, one of the people try to catch him, and he pulls a stump out from a car that's stopping it and hits the guy with the car. And he continues to run to a gas station, scares the man, and says, they're all coming to get us. And then the gas station attendant, who's also a tow truck driver, drives him to a hospital. And then we meet our hero, Dr. Chowders, who's going home and brings his children masks. But they say, we don't need your masks, Dad. We have Silver Shamrock masks, which are better masks. And then we hear the Silver Shamrock theme, which we hear a lot in this movie. And it will be in your head for at least the next year, or until you watch this movie again, which will be in your head again for longer. Because it's a very catchy theme. I'm not going to sing it for you. And he gets in a fight with his ex-wife about why he has to go back into work because he's a doctor and they need him because he's a doctor. Because his ex-wife's a bitch. And she doesn't understand that doctors are needed at hospitals. Probably why they're divorced. So he goes to the hospital and he meets the old man who's half out of it. And the tow truck driver's like, I did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. Don't blame the black guy. And so then a commercial for Silver Shamrock airs, and the old man's like, they're going to kill us. They're going to kill us. And the tow truck driver takes off before they arrest the black guy and execute him. So then our hero, Dr. Chowders, goes in to take a nap. And we see the man who tried to kill the old man is back again in the hospital, putting gloves on to finish the job. And he goes in and he breaks the old man's skull by putting his fingers into the man's eyeballs and breaking his skull. And then the nurse walks in and screams, and Dr. Chowders chases the guy out to his car, but he covers himself in gasoline and lights himself on fire. Something we haven't seen since the 60s when a monk did it. So this guy's either a monk protesting, or he's just some random nutcase. Or he's Klinger trying to pull a stunt to get out of the army. which would get you out of the army if you lit yourself on fire. So then he calls his ex-wife and says, I can't come over because a man died. And his ex-wife gives him the runaround. She really doesn't understand this doctor thing, does she? So then we meet our heroine, Ellie, who's the old man's daughter. And then we skip ahead a few days. She identifies the old man, and we skip ahead a few days, and he goes into Teddy, who's a woman, not a guy, and who's the coroner's assistant, and our hero, Dr. Childers, wants her to hurry up the autopsy report on the guy who lit himself on fire. She says, I'll see what I can do. And then he goes drinking. Apparently he has a drinking problem because he does a lot of drinking in this movie. And Ellie walks in and she says, I want the truth of what my father said during that night. He lies to her, then he tells her the truth. And then they go check out her father's place. And she says, this is what my father did. He went to Silver Shamrock Company, put up masks that day, and then disappeared before you found him in your hospital. So they're off to the Silver Shamrock Company. And of course, the doctor brings his driving beer along. His 6-pack of driving beer. When they get there, everyone in the town of the Silver Shamrock Company is staring at them. Like, who are these strange people? So they get a motel, and they pose as buyers looking to buy masks. And this is where we meet 2 other people. Marge, who is also a buyer, but her order is backed up. And the biggest salesperson who sold the most masks for Silver Shamrock in the past year, whose last name I don't remember, and his family. Now, they don't initially go to the Silver Shamrock Company. They go the next day. He goes out drinking that night, which, of course, he has a drinking problem, I think. And Marge notices something after the Silver Shamrock signifier fell off her mask. So she hits it with a bobby pin, and it shocks her, changing her into a monster, and then releasing bugs and snakes from her. Of course, the Silver Shamrock Company comes to get her, and Dr. Childers says he'll help her. But they say, no, thank you. And then the next day they go to Silver Shamrock Company to see if Ellie's father picked up her order. And they say he did. And the hot top salesperson is there getting his tour. And they ask if they can come on tour with, and he asks if they can come on tour with him. And Conal Cochran, our bad guy, who's also the old man from the RoboCop series, says okay. So they get a tour of the Silver Shamrock Company. Everything but the final process. Now, this was an 80s factory, so it's not automated yet. Big automated factory would be cooler. So, and then Ellie sees her dad's car there and flips out and goes to see the car, but a bunch of the people in black suits, get in her way. The men in black get in her way. They're going to wipe her mind. So then they go to escape. But Ellie is taken. So our hero, Dr. Childers, tries to escape. But he can't. And he breaks into Silver Shamrock Company. And he is eventually captured after defeating one of the men in black and realizing they are robots. And then Conal Cochran reveals his evil plan by showing him what happens to the top salesman. The top salesman shows him the Silver Shamrock ad that goes on in the giveaway spot at 9 p.m. where children put on their masks and then a pumpkin flashes and it turns the children into grotesque monsters, releasing snakes and bugs and everything else that kill the parents. And the grotesque monsters, of course, kill the children. So then they strap Dr. Childers down, put a mask on his head, turn the TV on to the channel that's going to show the commercial, and lock him in a room with a camera on him. Ellie is strapped down to a room and a table. Strapped down to a table in a room. Strapped down to a room and a table. Yeah, that makes sense. She's strapped down to a room and a table. Yeah. See how I can talk. She's strapped down to a table in a room. But Dr. Childers has a plan. He breaks the TV, uses the glass to cut himself free, throws the mask over the camera, and escapes through one of those big movie vents like everyone has in their houses. I'm sure I could crawl around a vent in a store. I'd pretty much get my head, I'd get headwise in, maybe handwise. Yeah. He crawls through one of those big movie vents and escapes to the roof. And then frees Ellie. And they go to stop the Silver Shamrock Company by doing the only thing they know how. Tipping the commercial, dropping a bunch of Silver Shamrock activator pins over the people, and killing all the robots. And tripping the commercial activates the piece of Stonehenge that is controlling them, turning Conal Cochran invisible, or it might have just killed him, I'm not real sure which one, and exploding the piece of Stonehenge. If you ever thought a rock couldn't explode, it does in this movie. To which Ellie and Dr. Childers get away and go, we have to stop this commercial from airing. Because, you know, in the old days, commercials didn't air live from wherever who was making the commercials. They sent video cassettes out to various studios, and they put the video cassettes in at various times and programmed them in. And, okay, I'm getting way off topic here. But that's normal for me. But then Ellie attacks him, and it's revealed that Ellie is a robot. Was she always a robot? Who knows? She certainly wasn't a robot when... She may have been a robot when Childers had sex with her, and we got to see Childers' pasty white ass. I think there's a rule in movies that your ass has to pass the tissue test to be on screen. Now, Ellie is a robot. He breaks off her arm. He breaks off her head. And then he fights her arm and fights her disembodied body, disheaded body. And then he takes off, going to the same gas station the old man went to, and calls the studios to end the commercial. He gets 2 studios to take it off the air. It airs on one. And it goes off before we know if he got that off the air, because the pumpkin was flashing. So did the kids go into grotesque monster mode and bugs and snakes come out of their heads? Did it end right before that happened? We don't know. That's how it ended. I like to think all the kids died and snakes and bugs came out of their head and killed a bunch of people, and that was the truth. This movie is great. Why is it called Season of the Witch? Because Conal Cochran's a witch who's using Stonehenge to try to destroy the world. But this movie's great. It's one of the better Halloween movies. I mean, it's better than 5, I'd say. Better than 6. It's better than H2O, but that's just because I can't stand Josh Hartnett. I don't know who cuts his hair, but I think it's a blind man. It's definitely better than Resurrection. Resurrection I hated. The movie didn't make any sense. It's better than Halloween Ends. I mean, Halloween Ends was horrible. Corey was the killer, not Michael Myers. So it's one of the better Halloween movies. And it's from the 80s, but there's no female nudity in it. I said the only nudity in it is seeing Tom Atkins' pasty white ass, which I think passed the tissue test. And there's not that many dead bodies, but there's enough dead bodies. And the old man from RoboCop is just great in it. And Tom Atkins has a glorious mustache. So go watch Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. It's on Peacock, probably till the end of October. Maybe they'll keep it in November. I don't know. But it's also on AMC several times this month. It streams throughout various streaming platforms throughout the year. It particularly lands on Tubi several times a year. It's a great movie. You got to watch it. 12 out of 10 stars. Check it out. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch. Great movie. Check it out. Next week, Benny Loves You. And that's it. Stop watching.